mean, November, back in November. Yeah.
One of my favorite parts when everybody just jumped up there and started singing.
That was good. Little drummer boy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you preacher, you down there?
He's also our public works director.
Okay, hi, this is Paul Schock with the SCIPP program, and this is also at the Restoration Community Church, and we're doing our monthly panel discussion for the community. And right now, would I like to introduce Elizabeth?
I'm Elizabeth Shelton, Executive Director of United Way of Southeast Missouri, and I'm joined by one of our funded partners in Scott City.
Thank you. I'm Pastor Randy Morse from the First Assembly of God Church, Scott City, Missouri, and also Scott City Minister Alliance President and kind of the overseer of the food pantries and benevolence funds. So we, like United Way, we have a team here that really works well. So, and we're also part of the United Way team as well. So,
Elizabeth, can you tell me a little bit about what United Way is and what you guys do in the community and the history of it?
I appreciate this opportunity too, because a lot of people know of United Way, but they don't necessarily understand all that we do and how we do it. So United Way of Southeast Missouri is part of a global network. United Way is worldwide, and we are one of about 1,300 United Ways in nearly 40 different countries. And every United Way focuses on the three building blocks that we believe have the greatest impact on success in life: education, income stability, and health. So every United Way invests in programs that support those three focus areas. But every United Way gets to determine which programs we're going to support in our community that will have the greatest impact. And we currently invest in 30 partners, and Pastor Randy and the Ministerial Alliance here is one of them, and they represent about 34 programs because we invest in more than one program at some of our partners. Salvation Army is one of them. We support 3 different programs there. And we have 2 internal programs that United Way supports, and they work, one of them works very closely with Pastor Randy, and each United Way gets to determine their own grant and funding cycle and the amount that they are able to give based on donations and the amount that each program that we're supporting is going to get. And this is not determined by me and my small team of employees. It's determined by volunteers from the community who represent the footprint that we serve and the 3 focus areas that we support. So United Way of Southeast Missouri is assigned, every United Way is assigned zip codes or counties. So the counties that United Way of Southeast Missouri serves include Cape Girardeau County, Bollinger, Perry, and we share Scott County with United Way of the Boot Heel in Sykeston. So our focus really is only as far as Scott City. And every 3 years is how often we do our grant application. Some United Ways do it every year, which I think I would just feel like I'm spending my whole time just working on grants. And so fortunately, just before I came on in 2015, our board had decided to move to a 3-year cycle. And this gives our partners better planning and budgeting information. It gives us better data because we do require every partner to return data to us to demonstrate how they are using the money and ensure that it's being used as our donors and our Community Investment Committee intend for it to be used. And they have to return annual outcomes to us. So if someone would like to be involved in determining which partners and programs we invest in, our next funding cycle will be 2025, and we always promote this in our social media, in our monthly newsletter, We send a news release out to all the media, and we get it in the newspaper. So we would love for any organization interested to apply in 2025, but we also really need volunteers to not only serve on the Community Investment Committee, but to also help review the applications, which are online. So you can do this from the comfort of your sofa. And every application is graded and reviewed by 3 different people so that it's not skewed. And then, so you can do as many of those from your couch as you want to, and we always need help with that.
That's wonderful. Could you actually tell us a little bit about the different organizations you fund and how those organizations affect the greater community and the people in the community?
I encourage you to go to unitedwayofsemo.org, and if you look under our impact, there's a list of our funded partners, and they're also listed on the back of our brochure. And we invest, like I said, in partners that support education, income stability, and health. And we have many partners that serve our entire footprint, our 4-county footprint, and some of them actually go into Stoddard County, which we are not in. And some of those that are also serving Scott City include the American Red Cross, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, Community Partnership of Southeast Missouri, Foster Adopt Connect, which used to be Hope for One More, and Voices for Children CASA, and Lutheran Family and Children's Services. These are all programs that help people throughout our 4-county footprint. And I want to point out, like, you know, one of the first ones that I said is American Red Cross. We don't just give money to them that goes to their corporate office. All of the money that United Way of Southeast Missouri gives to partners stays right here in Southeast Missouri. And the program, for example, that we support at the American Red Cross helps families who have suffered a natural disaster right here in Southeast Missouri. And we're also really proud of the fact that 98%, and sometimes as much as 99% of every individual donation goes to these partners and programs. It does not go to our operating expenses, and we're so proud to be able to say that. We're able to do that because of these corporate investors that are also listed on our website. They believe in the work that we do, and they give us anywhere from $1,000 to $25,000 and up to help us pay our operating expenses so that our donors know the bulk of their donation is going directly to the partners and programs that are helping people who need that help. And we're really proud of that. Some of the programs that we have here in Scott City, though, include the Boys and Girls Club that is located at the Scott City Elementary School. And we used to have one of our in-house programs there, too, which is called Read to Succeed. That's an early literacy program that currently only goes into the Cape Girardeau Public Schools, and volunteers sit down with a child who reads to them for 30 minutes a week. And we have seen incredible reading progress as a result of that. Not surprisingly, a lot of students suffered during COVID and having to be at home, and we are playing a lot of catch-up now to help those kiddos get back on track. And many of them, not many, some of them have come in 2 years behind and are now reading at their peer level because of last semester. In one semester, they've managed to catch up, and some of them have exceeded their peer level because of Read to Succeed. And unfortunately, we were not able to continue it in Scott City because of a lack of volunteers, which I know is something that we've talked about and we may want to get back to. But we also have people who come from Scott City to some of the programs that are headquartered in Cape. One of them is called Work-Life Program at One City, and this helps people who have been chronically unemployed for many years return to the workforce, and it's a faith-based program. And it begins by renewing their faith in God and their faith in themselves. And that is critical to feeling that you have the self-worth to return to the workforce. And we really love that program too. The Safe House of Southeast Missouri helps people from Scott City, even though they are headquartered in Cape Girardeau. We also have an emergency student fund at every public school in the footprint we serve, including one at Scott City Schools. And that is generally administered by a counselor or nurse. And I am always alarmed when I talk to educators who don't know anything about it. So any schools that are listening, make sure that your teachers know that you have a student emergency fund that is supported by United Way donors who care about your school. And it helps kiddos with things that their parents can't afford, like suddenly they need reading glasses. Or if a teacher notices a student coming to school, in January with no coat, the fund can help support that. So we like those funds, and we love hearing some of those stories. One of them, a student in another county, that fund helped pay for some life-saving medicine that child's family could not afford. And then one of our programs that we love dearly here in Scott City is the Scott City Ministerial Alliance Food Pantry and Benevolence Fund.
Randy, would you like to talk about that organization and the impact that it has in our community and the people?
Absolutely. I'll start with this. I've been around since 1994. And when I first came, Pastor Randy Phillips from the Wesleyan Church was our Ministerial Alliance president, and he also had a food pantry down there at the church, along with commodities that they handed out. And as time went on, I became president of the Ministerial Alliance, and we kind of took it over, transferred over to us, but not at our church. We were just really happy to have a building donated to us by Tim Porch, one of our local businessmen here. And when that came, we built shelves and things like this and began to stock it. Well, at the same time, I came in contact with Nancy Jernigan from United Way and became a partnership with them as well. Not a funded partner, but we were receiving money every year through this. And later on, we became a funded partner as well. Larry Dunger used to sit up on the board from here in town, and he was the one that called me and said, I'm going to be talking to somebody. We would like to, see if we couldn't get Scott City on board with United Way in this area. And so that's where our partnership began a long time ago. And it's funny that you'd say that, because at the time, I'll tell a little story here. A man by the name of Mike Smythe was general manager at KFBS, and he was on the United Way board. At that time, we'd have to come in and we'd have to be interviewed, and we'd talk in front of this panel. And our lady who was taking care of the books was Dorothy Dees. She's passed on now, but and to kind of sideways here a little bit, we have a United Way. We have United Way, but we also have the Ministerial Alliance, which is just amazing. Dorothy Dees represents the Catholic Church, and we have just this great representation of all the churches. We're not in competition like this, but we work together, which is beautiful. And back then, I was a president, and when we got started, and the Catholic priest was my vice president. So it's like, I never forget. I said, I didn't grow up Catholic, and he said to me, he said, well, not everybody's perfect. And I said, so it's like, but I said, I kind of have a hard time calling you father. But he said, then Father Pat says, well, he says, call me, my friends call me Pat. And I started calling him Pat, but then it just broke the ice to where I'd always call him Father after that. And then he told that story. Some of my friends at the Catholic Church said, he told that story about you, It's like, oh, that's cool, It's like, all right, because this partnership that we have is such a beautiful thing. But anyway, Dorothy Dees, she was doing the books, and she did it for the long writing, not computer, but everything was like ledger. Wow. So we turned in our ledgers and all this other stuff. And Mike Smythe's looking through this stuff, and he says, why is this all in ledger? Can't you put it on a computer or anything like this? And I said, well, Mike, if you will look, or Mr. Smythe, if you'll look at this, I said, we take every penny we get and we turn it back into helping people. And I said, computers cost money. And it says, if I buy a computer, it's that much less I could do to help people. I said, unless KFBS would like to donate some computers. he didn't ask me another question after that. Yeah, but Procter & Gamble later did come up with some computers, and we were able to outfit Dorothy and everybody like that. They did, and see, this is part of our partnership with United Way as well. And that's beautiful because not only does it help us on our end, but then we take that money that we've been able to develop and use it to help people every Tuesday with Food Pantry. Dorothy's daughter and another lady from the Catholic Church takes care of that, and it's just a beautiful thing. And generally, because of the food bank, we'd have to keep track of how many families are fed. So it's anywhere from 12 to 1,400 families per year that are taken care of in Scott City. On the other hand, we also have benevolences with Dawn Razor. She's taking Dorothy's place, so she takes care of the books and all the grants and everything else that we have coming up. So she's also manager at Casey's. But anyway, well over, I don't know how many families. Dawn's here today, but it was what was last year? Okay, altogether
1,810.
1,810 families. And a lot of this is helping people with their utility bills because we have an agreement with Ameren UE in order to call and pledge something just to keep the lights on for another 30 days when they get a shut-off notice. We work with the city of Scott City with helping out with the water bills. And sometimes we've helped out with rent, mortgage. And we've also developed, which we have to renew because after we lost Marty Haas, he would take people in from the Lutheran Church. He's from the Lutheran Church. He'd take people in and he would counsel them financially and say, okay, listen, we're going to help you out now, but what are we going to do about it in the future? So that's another area that I know we've got capable men, probably like Pastor Bob and others from the Restoration Church that could probably counsel people financially. Bob, I'm giving you a suggestion here. And and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's quite a network. And going back to Mr. Smythe and our interview there, if you look at Scott County, put a dividing line from Benton south and north. And Scott City is like an island all to itself. We're not in Cape, but a lot of people think we are. But a lot of things that Cape has, Scott County cannot have that. Where on the other hand, Sykeston is such a bigger community in our county that a lot of the attention goes to Sykeston. And since they're Boot Heel United Way, we're just kind of out in the cold up here. If it wasn't for United Way here, Elizabeth and everybody, we wouldn't have what we have now. That's how our county is. We're, like I said, an island to ourselves. Because of the Catholic Church involvement, we do extend down to New Hamburg area, but we do not do Chaffee at this time. We try to stay within the Scott City School District area because of the large numbers of people that we deal with, and that's basically all we can work with right now. But there is a partnership, as you said, with Salvation Army, and you mentioned so many other ones that are just great that will be extended down here, the Boys and Girls Club. And with that partnership, we've also seen food drives from the, I keep looking over here. Should I be looking at the camera? Or
You can look
okay.
wherever you want.
Okay. It's informal. Okay. I used to be on Ask the Pastor, that TV program, and it was like, focus here, not at the commentator. Anyway, but the thing is going back to that, the Bank of Missouri, they brought in a truck, and we did stuff the truck. Our schools, FBLA and other, they would bring in canned food drives and things like this and help us out. I believe Skip did on the, what was that called? Ann
Smith, Messy Kids Day.
Messy Kids Day. I know you would do canned food drives.
We've actually helped out with the school with stuff for bus for school supplies. And
so, this community network is beautiful. And then at Christmas time, what's happened is, I'm going on and on here, but at Christmas time, since, a long time, I want to say back into the 70s, the fire department used to do Christmas baskets every year for people. And there was a kind of a change of things and to where the fire department really didn't want to keep track of the money and all that stuff for that. So Jay Kasu went ahead and took it back over, and I presented it to the Minister Alliance to be under their umbrella. And as a result, just before Christmas, the Scott City Minister Alliance Christmas food baskets will hand out 100 food baskets, $50 a piece is about what they run. And then the Scott City Women's Club buys clothes for kids at Christmas time. And then the school has the presents and things like this. So basically right now we're using the Scott City First Assembly of God gym is kind of like the community center to where they all come in for one-stop shopping, and they'll get their food, they'll get their clothes, they'll get their Christmas gifts and all this other stuff. And it's generally the third Saturday of December. So I'm just kind of painting a broad picture here, but there was so much unity within the schools and the city and everything involved in Scott City to kind of take care of its own and to assist each other. And I know it sounds like, oh yeah, you're really sucking up to Elizabeth over here. But it's true that without United Way, much of this, or hardly any of it, would really be able to be funded. Like the food baskets, we do fish fries, things like this to raise money because we need $5,000. That doesn't come out of what we receive from United Way. We use the money from United Way for the I can't even say it, food pantry and the benevolences. So these are things that we really focus upon. And
Well, and you were talking about the network.
yeah.
The local network here, which is so strong, but also I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit because
Yeah.
many people don't understand how the United Way network of partners is so impactful. I will get asked sometimes, well, I really care about this particular program. I want to give my money to them. Well, first, thank you for giving. If you want to give, do it. We are certainly not going to tell you not to. But one thing that we tell people frequently when we give presentations is rarely is a family or an individual in need because of one circumstance, and rarely can just one program get them back on their feet. And that's when the power of the United Way network comes into play. It is especially powerful with children because I've mentioned some of the programs. A very real example is, we have a little boy who has a need at his school, and so his emergency student fund at that school is able to give him the shoes so that he can participate in basketball because his family could not afford any basketball shoes for him. Well, that child then is part of the ABC Today network, which is something that is at all of the Cape Girardeau public schools. And because of that, the child's progress is tracked. And anytime that he starts struggling, the network and the teachers around there come into play. And he is also part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. So he has a big mentoring him. He goes to the Boys and Girls Club after school in Cape Girardeau when it's not basketball season. And he gets assistance there. And he has a friend who is a foster child. And that foster child is getting support from also going to Boys and Girls Club, also getting support from CASA, Voices for Children, which is court-appointed special advocates, and they are the voice for the child in court. And there are also many programs in place in the schools that United Way used to fund, but now the schools are able to fund them on their own. One of them was a social worker that United Way put in at the high school and fully funded until the school was able to absorb that salary. And that social worker alone kept 104, I believe, students from dropping out. And so you just have to look at the whole big picture of how the whole United Way network is coming together to help, one child, one child's friend, one child's family. And those people go on then to become members of our community who give back, who are earning an income, who are contributing, and that is what it's all about.
It's pretty much, I look at United Way and what we're talking about, it's a community that raises a child.
Yes, it is.
And then the other thing that you guys were bringing up as far as the food pantry, as I understand, the food bank just opened up another branch in Jackson because they found that during COVID, was it 50,000 families that they were serving, and then during COVID, it ended up increasing by another 30,000, and which is detrimental for the area. We just don't realize how many families are in need of these services.
And if you are a kid and you're in school and you're hungry it's really hard for you to focus on learning when you don't know if you're going to have a meal when you get home, you know. So we also support the Jackson Ministerial Alliance food pantry and the Little Whitewater Baptist Church food pantry in Bollinger County. And the Salvation Army also has a food pantry. And we occasionally will do drives for all of our food pantries. And we're actually hoping to do one this summer. We are proud to be a partner of the Cape Catfish baseball team. And they are good about trying to give back and encouraging the community to give back. So every Wednesday home game is United Way Wednesday, W-I-N-S Day. And we are trying to use some of those Wednesdays, at least one of them, to have a food drive that will benefit our food pantries because it is a huge need. And First Call for Help, which is the second United Way in-house program, that's a number that you can call 573-334-HELP, which is 4357. Anyone in the southeast Missouri counties of Cape, Bollinger, Perry, Scott, and Stoddard can call, and a social worker answers the phone and tries to connect people with resources. But it's not like 211, which is a United Way nationwide program. When you call 211, you go into a call center, and they will connect you to resources depending on your zip code where you are. But when you call First Call for Help, you talk to a social worker who finds out what else is going on in your life. You're not just directed to a food pantry or to, you know, a facility for shelter or someone who can help you pay your utility bill. This First Call for Help is answered by a social worker who asks, well, tell me what led you to this. What situation are you in now? Oh, you lost your job. What are your skills? Well, here's a program that will help teach you some new skills, and it won't cost you anything. And so it's much more than just a call and referral center. And First Call for Help noticed during COVID that they were getting calls from people who had never called for help before. And it's not unusual to get calls from people asking for help with rent, but they were getting calls from people asking to help pay their mortgage because they had lost their job or, you know, had been sick and had to stay home and couldn't work. So it's been very telling, and the food pantry numbers are always an indicator of how our economy and how our people are doing.
And I think that one thing that you've highlighted, the First Call for Help, it's almost like it's the bridge for all the organizations you actually work with. And for people that are actually just common individual in the community can actually say, hey, I have a problem. How do I actually solve this problem? They can call First Call for Help to actually deal with that. And it could be arranged from, as you said, child welfare to domestic violence to dealing with the loss of a loved one or income functions of their family.
Frequently, it's also prescription related, especially for seniors who cannot afford their prescriptions. And we just, in this current cycle, welcomed in a new partner, which is Aging Matters. And they offer wonderful services to seniors. And the program that United Way supports is a prescription program to help reduce that cost for seniors. There's also Apple. If people are not familiar with Apple, unfortunately, this is a well-kept secret. That's a wonderful program for seniors. And Apple is an acronym that I cannot remember all of right now, but they can be found. It's Apple Project, because of course, if you just Google Apple, we know where you'll end up. But this is Apple Project, and they help seniors for free with paperwork, medical, sorting through the many medical bills that come through. They help a lot of widows whose husbands handled all of the paperwork and the finances and things like that. And, you know, they spent 6 months working with a widow, showing her how to write a check and balance her checkbook and do all of the things that she'd never had to do before. And it's all free. So if you are a senior, 60 and up, dealing with overwhelming paperwork or legal work or prescriptions or anything, I encourage you to call the Apple Project.
And again, I mean, this is great information, because one of the things that we found while doing these panel discussions each month is that everything, as you had said, everything affects each other. Whether it's individuals that are actually in foster care, domestic violence, human trafficking, substance abuse, dealing with anything in the community, it all evolves with itself. So having information out there as far as someone to call, contact, get information, is a great resource for the
Paul,
community.
let me segue off that just for a moment as well. And I think, I know Elizabeth would agree with this too, because our strength is actually in our networking, okay? It's not just one agency doing it, and I say agency, I'm not talking about United Way as the agency, I'm talking about the individual agencies you just mentioned. But it's like knowing somebody, and I'm thankful you said about aging matters, because we've been helping out with prescriptions also. But now we have one more tool to use to go ahead with this. As you're talking about the reading programs, things like this, I'm also a substitute teacher at Scott City, so it's like the other day as I was dismissing my class, I was dividing them up to go to the buses. Well, then all of a sudden it says Boys and Girls Club. So I was directing those kids to go to that. So there's a large number of children from Scott City in the elementary that do come to, and I'll say a large number, that come to the Boys and Girls Club. These are things that are just vital to our communities as well. You know, we only looked at one aspect, and you think I'm going to talk about the Ministerial Alliance, but I can't talk about the Ministerial Alliance without talking about all the other entities as well, because we all work together, and we all fit into this great big thing together to help. Don't you agree with that? I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Preach it, preacher.
Okay. Thank you. And you also said, Bob, I believe, don't you all do Celebrate Recovery here as well? So you're talking about the drug treatment programs. It might not be directly funded by us, but it's a viable tool, because say, okay, we've just started down at our church Stepping into Freedom. It's a program that was working through, Dawn helped me out with this, but it's the Community Counseling Center. Gibson Center,
Oh,
Gibson
great,
Center.
great.
And they received a grant for Scott County and Mississippi County. And so they're launching off in different communities, and since you had Celebrate Recovery here, they approached us about that. It's like, you know, what better way? I mean, you might have it on one night, we'll have it on a different night, but it offers people opportunities and things like this. So if it wasn't for the Gibson Center and their grant that they received, there's one more partnership that we have. So,
Well, and many of the students who go to One City's Work-Life program,
yes.
I just attended a graduation this week, and someone gave her testimony, and she had been addicted to meth, and she is looking forward to giving her testimony at Celebrate Recovery, and is so excited about being able to enter the workforce, and is so proud of herself. And that is just an example of another program that it's not, you know, we fund that program there, but she's getting support from so many other programs.
And throughout the process, as you're talking about, as far as getting as many much information out there of all the different organizations to people, so that they have avenues to go to. I know that one of the organizations, Boot Hill Counseling, is looking at having an operation here in town too. So that's one of the future
That's awesome.
plans that they're looking at doing. So
Hey, I better mention Teen Challenge. I've been on the board of directors since
Oh.
2002, so they're going to kick me off if I don't say something
Teen
about
and
it too.
Adult Challenge, right?
Teen and adult challenge. It'll still be TC to me, but it is adult and teen challenge,
Yeah, adult
exactly.
and teen.
But no, you're absolutely right, Paul. And Paul, tell me a little bit about SCIPP as you're going on this too.
The SCIPP program, basically, we do a lot of things through the Kiwanis, and we're actually trying to start a lot of different operational programs with kids, whether it's actually during the summertime, as far as just having a day of fun, as far as Messy Kids Day, to actually taking kids that have never really been out on field trips during the summertime, where they're actually locked up, to doing some field trips during a day once a week, or going to actually take kids and doing some projects with them. We're getting ready to do a safety awareness day for kids here at the Restoration Community Church. So we're going to actually have all these different organizations here to talk about safety for kids. We also do a lot of things with the teenagers and the school. We have an organization called Amplify, where the teens will actually have a voice in the community, and they can actually do things and come up with their ideas and be heard. And one of the things that we're looking at doing, we've been doing, is trying to get a movie night for the community at the FEMA building. The teens wanted to do a wiffle ball tournament during the summertime. So we'd have about 60 seniors and juniors playing wiffle ball. So we just provide a forum for the kids to actually feel comfortable and feel connected, along with providing things for families and also senior citizens, as far as lunch and learns, to getting them information that's out there in the community, to the panels that we're doing right now, getting information out to the community too. So we're trying to do as much as possible, but at the same time, bridging all the organizations, as we're talking about, together so that we can actually get the information out there. We do have a thing called that we developed an app that's actually free out there called Town Planner under Scott City, and basically lists all the activities and things that are actually going on in town throughout the year. So we're actually implemented that calendar, calling up the different organizations, find out what's going on so we can help them out and implement that so the people in the community can actually know what's going on, which is a great thing. But I think you're right, is basically trying to it's about building bridges, as we're talking about. And one of the things I would actually ask for both of you is, can you talk about some of the effects of these people calling up these organizations has had on their life, and how it actually impacts the community in a whole?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, if I'm understanding correctly, part of what you're referring to is the outcomes that we request from our partners. And we also have on our website, unitedwayofsemo.org, our most recent impact report. And that lists some of the numbers of people that United Way programs have impacted. Of course, those are only the ones we can count. We know there are a lot more who are impacted indirectly. But we also ask our partners to share stories, to share success stories with their outcomes. And I've shared a couple now of folks that we have dealt with, but there are just so many people who thank us, and our donors don't get to hear that. We do try to share with our donors some of these stories. We have a YouTube channel where we have some of our stories posted, so I would encourage people to find United Way of SEMO on YouTube. Actually, I think it's of Southeast Missouri. And, one of the programs that really has hit me is the foster care program, which is Voices for Children CASA. And there are so many children. The number just is higher and higher every time I ask, what is the latest number? I hate to even know, because there are so many children in foster care. And unfortunately, a lot of that is because their parents are dealing with drug use and substance abuse. And the kids are the ones who are suffering. But those that can get a good CASA, a court-appointed special advocate, who checks in on them monthly, who helps connect them to resources, those are the students who are so incredibly grateful. And I am the mother of a high school senior, and I cannot imagine how he would be faring on his own without an adult guiding him on his next steps and opportunities for higher education and things like that, because that's how a lot of these foster kids are. They don't have someone helping them with that. But I was able to attend a court session when I was at CASA of a student who was aging out because he was turning 21, but he was a sophomore, or no, he was a junior. He was a junior in college. He had been going to Southeast Missouri State University. He'd been living on his own, and he was so exuberant and thanked so many people. He had all of us laughing and crying. And it was, a lot of times we hear from people in desperate need, And we really need those stories of hearing of the people that we have helped. And people will thank us, and I need to thank our donors, because none of this happens without our donors and without these workplaces who help pay our operating expenses, and without this incredible network of partners.
Now we think in Scott City as well, there's several instances. We go on quite a bit on this, but I talk about the food baskets at Christmas time, seeing people come in who might not have a Christmas meal or something like this, and just the look on their faces. They come in, they receive toys for their children, or something, or the clothing for their kids. It's just incredible to see the look on their faces and know that, hey, you know, they might need the money for this, for their rent or something like this, but this is taking a little burden off of this, especially this Christmas time of year. Then there's other times throughout the year we've had with the COVID, one incident where a person been out of work, things were getting really slim, and finally she got a job, but she needed help not only with the utility bills, I think it was, and at one time rent as well. So we were able to help out in both those. A lot of times we'll partner with DAOC out of Sykeston, and so then they'll call us and say, we've got somebody in Scott City. They're able to come up with $300. They need, $600. Can you partner with us on this? And generally we'll do what we can in order to do that. And we generally will not see the money come back to us, but that's not what's important. But there has been times to where one lady we did help out. She got a job, and a few months later she sent us a check for what we did with her utility bill by helping her out. Sometimes the difference is, do I pay my utility bills, my rent, do I buy food? What do I do? So these areas here, just to see the grateful expression on people's face. I remember one lady, and this is where you come in and you're kind of reasoning with them. So listen, I'm getting my electricity shut off, but I've got cable, I've got this, and this. And she says, well, I've got a daughter who's, just got some needs, special needs, and she really likes to watch TV and this and that. It's like, okay, what other areas, can we manage through this in order to, it's going to be forever. But it's just these personal contacts, but then seeing the success behind it. Or an individual who doing a job interview and came and got a gas voucher from us. To get gas vouchers, you got to go through this. You call up one of the pastors. We approve it. Then you go down to this police department, and they have the gas vouchers. Then you go to Casey's. So everything's being double checked. So this person needed, I think it was fuel in order to go to a job interview. And it's like, okay, we're able to provide that for you. Very thankful. Hey, guess what? I got the job. Now I can do this and this and this. And can you help me out a little bit more? Yes, until your first 2 weeks comes in and things like this. So. Just seeing I want to say, how would you, Dawn is here in the room here as well, but just seeing or hearing from them the gratitude, the happiness of reaching out and knowing that there's something out there that could help me, something out there that could help me through this troubled time. And then also, this is crazy, but we've also been able to work with the police department in great ways too. We had one individual getting off the interstate and said, hey, we're low on gas. I said, okay. Go down to the police department, get yourself a gas voucher. Well, they got to show them ID. They showed them ID. It turned out they had a warrant. So the police department calls and says, thank you. You're helping us clean up the streets, too. You just sent a criminal our way. He's sitting in the jail now. So now, he don't need gas, but he just got, a place to live. And no, I'm joking about that.
Well, and most of
but
the
anyway.
people, though, who ask for help genuinely need our help. And I think people who haven't been in need don't always understand that. A lot of the people who come and ask for help don't want to have to ask for help. And people who've never had to make that ask find it hard to understand.
Yes.
But so many of the people we help are just one crisis away from being in need. It could be that your car breaks down and you can't get your car fixed, and then you can't get to work, so you lose your job, and then you can't pay your rent. I mean, it is just an avalanche.
That's right. It becomes very stifling.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And-
So
and for a
most
lot
of
of
the
people.
people, though, that we help genuinely need help.
And that also brings up, I would basically say, I've seen, and we've all seen some of the families in town, in the area that are broken families, and to actually touch upon at least one of the children in the family, to actually see that things don't always have to be that way. And hopefully that little seed within them, they can actually branch off to see that they can go beyond what they're going through, is the hopeful idea. one of the things that I would also like to touch upon, because you guys were bringing it up too, is because going back to that community, volunteers. I know after COVID, we talked about it, it's really hard to get volunteers to actually help out with the different organizations and to be able to feel that need to actually help others, which is desired and it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how you guys both are dealing with all of that?
Sure. Within the containment of the Ministerial Alliance, we've had to take measures in order to become less dependent on volunteers. For example, at the food pantry, we used to have a rotation system, and a lot of times that was hard to do. So finally, as I said, the folks from the Catholic Church rose up and said, we'll take that on. And as far as benevolence goes, a lot of what we do with a lot of our benevolences is we try to keep it as confidential as possible. So that part is a small portion of it. But then the funding and the coming together, we used to have the Boy Scout food drives and things like this, which is a great asset to us. And it's coming in and replacing some of those things where volunteers will step up and organize, things for food drives or organize groups that will get together for this or that. That's where I primarily see the volunteers on our side needed, is just helping us get the resources together. We already have the organization, the containment of the organization, but then on the other hand, in order to fund or put resources into that, that's where our big volunteer comes, big area for need for volunteers comes in, is helping us come up with those resources, spreading the word, and also organizing groups to say, okay, Kiwanis says we want to do this, and you have. We're going to have a cook hot dogs, and we're going to give you some of the proceeds from that, which you have. These are the things that really, really help us out in our community and blessings. As far as the other areas that I'm not 100% familiar with, like your Boys and Girls Clubs and things like this, I'm sure there's going to be needs in there that actually need hands-on volunteers that's going to work in those areas. And I think we could probably go on and on more about that. And I think Elizabeth could probably take some of that and refer to that where you need volunteers there.
Yes. You actually hit a hot button of mine, talking about organizing. Mm-hmm. You know, so many times people will say to me, oh, you guys should do so-and-so, or you need to do this. This would be a great fundraiser. And then I ask, wonderful, will you spearhead it for us? Oh, no, I don't have the time for that. Well, I am one of 3 United Way employees. A lot of people don't realize how small our team is. We also have a Vista through AmeriCorps who helps us, but she's leaving us this summer because her AmeriCorps commitment will end. And we now have a part-time administrative assistant. So that's it. And then plus the people who run our programs, First Call for Help and Read to Succeed. So the 3 of us really don't have time to do many events as much as we would love to. Mm-hmm. So if there's anyone out there who wants and really enjoys organizing events and promoting them and managing it from start to finish, please contact me, because we would love to be doing more events that help educate people, mm-hmm. not just raise funds. And our partners are also struggling to find volunteers. United Way only has, as far as volunteers go, the Read to Succeed program in the Cape Girardeau schools. But I know, like you said, Boys and Girls Club in Cape and Scott City always needs help after school. And we are organizing some things during National Volunteer Week, which is April 16th through 22nd. And these are in Cape because that's where the bulk of our partners are. Mm-hmm. But you can learn about programs that also serve Scott City. We're having what we call our Get on the Bus, Live United tours, where you literally get on a bus and go around and visit some of our partners and hear directly from them and learn more about some of the work we do. And maybe we can schedule one in Scott City, not necessarily that week, but coming up. And it's free, and we're doing one on Thursday, the 20th, which is from 3:30 to 5:30, and on Friday, the 21st, from 11 to 1. And we do not have this registration up on our site yet or all of the details worked out, but save the dates if that's something that interests you. And then also on Tuesday, April 18th, we're having a lunch and learn. Details are still being worked out on that because this is where we could really use an event person. We're scheduling a lunch and learn on what it means to be on a board, to be a volunteer on a board, because we really want to bring in this younger generation to get involved. And a lot of people are intimidated when they think, well, I don't know if I have what it takes to be on a board. Chances are you do. If you're passionate, if you know your community, and if you're willing to do what you say you'll do, chances are you will be a great board member for at least one of these many organizations. So continue to follow the United Way Facebook and social media. Subscribe to our monthly newsletter at unitedwayofsemo.org, because that's where we will be sharing all of this information. And please get on the bus, visit some partners, and it doesn't even have to be a United Way program. Whatever you are passionate about, there is something that you can do to help. Even if your background is in human resources, I assure you, you can come into any organization and help get things in order, get files in order, make sure they're adhering to the guidelines they need to be adhering to. Whatever your skills are, there is a place for you. So you can learn about all of these organizations on our website. If they have a website, we've linked to them, or a Facebook page. So getting involved is a great way to give back to your community, to meet other people. And usually I hear so many people say they feel more rewarded than the work they're contributing.
That's amazing, and that's wonderful to actually hear that, and to actually have a forum that people can actually be educated what a board is.
Good.
Because I mean, that most people don't know what a board is. They automatically assume it's something beyond them, and that's great to actually have something tangible so that they can attach themselves and understand and learn. One of the other things I would like to stress and bring up, so you have people in the community that say, this is great, can't volunteer, but I can maybe donate or give money. So what do they need to do?
Well, I, of course, am going to ask them to donate to United Way of Southeast Missouri and help this partner and many others. But you can also donate to us and designate it, and that money goes directly to that partner. So we have giving opportunities online at unitedwayofsemo.org donate. We are still happy to take old-fashioned checks that can be mailed to our office, and you can find that address online on our website. We also have volunteer opportunities on our website that our partners list. So you can go there and learn more about them and sign up for a volunteer opportunity. And if you're not passionate about United Way or any of these partners, just give somewhere, because giving back is part of why we're all here on this earth.
Which is true. One of the things I would like to do is just open up the forum. Does anyone have any questions themselves?
Yeah, let me throw this in there too. If you want to give the Scott City Minister Alliance,
Exactly.
don't forget us. I know you didn't. Just messing with you. But anyway, any one of the pastors, you know, you could write out a check to the SCMA, Scott City Minister Alliance, and give it to any one of the pastors. Call any one of the churches. Call our church, 573-264-2365. And we have an answering machine there. I'm not in the office, and Dawn used to be the lady that was in the office all the time, but she got healed, and she's a manager. So praise the Lord for that. Or go down to the Bank of Missouri. We got accounts down there, and you just tell Bank of Missouri this is for the Scott City Minister Alliance, and they'll put it in the funds there. So
That's
just
great.
any one of the pastors, our church number down there, or call United Way or any one of these, and they'll tell you where to plug it in down here too as well. They got the numbers. So or Bank of Missouri.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any questions or suggestions? What I would like to actually ask is, what do you see the future of those bridges and United Way and the organizations from here out? Or any
Well.
ideas that you'd like to see accomplished?
You know, one thing about United Way is we use our network and our connections throughout the community to tackle big problems. And We most recently did this. My predecessor, whom you referenced, Nancy Jernigan, put together an education coalition to help bring up the graduation rates at Central High School 10 years ago, and that coalition succeeded, and the graduation rate is close to 90% now.
Wow.
And now we've realized two huge needs in our community. Well, there are many needs. Anytime we do research among our employers or our partners or the people we all serve, the top four needs are affordable housing, affordable health care, transportation, and safe and affordable child care. And that hasn't changed in 10 years. So we have some organizations that are trying to tackle housing, and United Way has started working with Cape Transit Authority to try to find more transportation solutions, and with the city of Cape Girardeau. We've started there because there's a bus system there, and we're hoping that we'll figure some things out there that we can expand into other areas. But just last week, I attended a meeting on childcare, and the numbers are alarming. The wait for childcare, the costs of childcare, the number of women who have left the job force because they cannot get childcare, and it's impacting our workforce, it's impacting our students and our families. And so we are probably going to be looking at trying to provide, trying to pull together a coalition again to try to help, or be part of one, to try to help figure out some more solutions for childcare. So I would love to say that, you know, our future is going to be rosier, and that I'll no longer have a job because everyone is self-sufficient, but that's naive. I do hope, though, that we can build a strong recovery from COVID and use the lessons we learned and apply the changes that make sense. You know, a lot of things changed because of COVID, and some of them may have been for the better. And I think we're looking at a new way of doing a lot of things. And I hope that the 20 and 30-somethings will get engaged. And I love that you guys are engaging teenagers through your programs, because we old folks need to do all that we can to support the upcoming generations. They are our future, but they're the future of the communities that we all love, and I encourage them to get involved. I don't think I really answered your question, but those are some of the things that we're looking toward the future.
And Paul, what I see for Scott City in the future, I would say this is Cape Girardeau has been a blessing to Scott City, but also a challenge to Scott City, because any town that's around 5,000, just the city itself, is something that, you know, you have businesses and many other things going on, hotels, restaurants, things like this. I just came back from Piedmont, and it's like, oh my goodness, they got a hotel there and everything, you know. But they're out there where they're at. But on the other hand, I don't mean to be my drum or anything like this, but on city council, my committee is in charge of like the grants, the visions, and things like this, and we're working diligently to try to bring a grocery store to our community. We're seeing the out there by Harley Davidson, that area, we're looking at development out there next. Scott City is poised, I believe, for not only development, but we're also poised for something I think is going to be greater than we've ever seen before, that things are going to be happening. Churches are going to have more people. There's going to be more jobs, things like that. I'm believing that. But on the other hand, unless we come together, you know, we're going to be if a city doesn't grow, then all of the other little agencies and volunteer units are all going to be on life support, you know, because
Exactly.
they're going the other direction. But as you're doing here today, I envision this, that we form this network, that we have more of a closeness. Instead of just helping each other, we become entities that have more contact with each other. Because as the city would grow and prospers, then our agencies, our outreaches, I'm going to call them ministries, you know. Those things also have to be in closer working order contact, so we're not duplicating things, but actually assisting each other in every way. So that's kind of my vision for the future for Scott City. It's not only development and other things that's going to take place. For years, I've envisioned a community center, and I believe that if property ever opened up, I could see that happening, But things like that where people would come to Scott City and say, you know what, I didn't really notice Scott City just driving by or going over the diversion channel. But there's a gem right there. There is something special about that community and how people get along and work together and love each other like they do. So I think that's one thing that really excites me about our community is just this sense of unity with each other. And as the community grows, and like I said, I think we're poised. Tim Porch once said, he says, we're so close to a boom that as far as everything coming together, it's going to happen, I believe. And I've been kind of keeping that vision alive too, like agreeing with him. He was one of our former mayors at one time. And the same thing with Mayor Brandt. He's seen the ditches being closed up and things like this, and a lot of improvements have been coming to Scott City. But I think they're going to keep on happening, so it's going to happen. But my vision is this, that we all together, the Boys and Girls Club, the drug treatment programs, everything else is going on, that we start getting a little bit tighter there with each other and saying, okay, hey, how's going, what's working, what's not working, what can we do for each other? So that's what I see with our future as well. And I think if we go that way, then we're going to see everything else help as be better for everyone concerned that we deal with and work with all of our clients and everybody else that we work and deal with in our community. So that's kind of what I see in the future.
I think you're 100% right, and I think for a long time people have been asking for a community center here. When you look at towns, whether it's Chaffee, Bernie, small little towns that basically have a community center, and they're actually making something of their small little town.
Yeah.
And it's desperately needed. Or granted, something I know that yourself, Bob's been doing at the church too, that having branches for the community to go to. But I think eventually to have a center place and then branch off from there would even be better.
Yes.
And that's part of our second phase. We're sell that chunk of property we get back there. And then we're considering building a community center, second phase, instead of everybody use vice, the division of having a shop and automotive and all that stuff. So that's kind of the direction we're thinking. Exactly what you're saying. Because when I drove here, first time I looked, there was a community center. It wasn't. So whether we use this property and we build that whole section for the community center, still very nice.
But more and more resources that are actually out there in the town, the better things are.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
more,
All boats rise.
and the better things are as far as the kids too, for not being on the streets, getting in trouble, and getting more information about what's possible to be a good citizen. I mean, let's look at it this way. A lot of the individuals, as we know in Scott City, a good percentage of families are transit families. And if we can actually have a stability for the families to actually be here for, then you actually develop morals with the kids and familiar places that they can actually call home and feel comfortable with. And if we can actually create that, I think that's a great seed and a great goal.
That's right.
So we thank you very much for all your guys' information, your help, and your successes within what you've done in the community. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
opportunity.